What happens when one of Britain's most beloved presenters gets thrown off a daytime talk show in the most explosive way imaginable? It only took one comment from Lorraine Kelly to send Graham Norton storming off her set in a shocking confrontation that left the entire panel speechless. This was supposed to be a lighthearted morning chat. Graham Norton had appeared on countless talk shows, always the consummate professional, always charming, always gracious. But what unfolded on Lorraine Kelly's show that morning would shatter that expectation completely. The segment started innocently enough. Graham settled into the bright purple sofa next to panelists Christine Lampard and Dr. Hilary Jones, with Lorraine perched in her usual host chair, coffee mug in hand. The audience applauded warmly as Graham waved, his trademark smile lighting up the studio. "Graham Norton, everyone," Lorraine announced, her Scottish accent cutting through the applause. So lovely to have you here. Though I must say, we don't usually see you on this side of the interview chair, do we?" Graham laughed good-naturedly. "Well, it's nice to be the one answering questions for a change instead of asking them." Christine leaned forward, eager to jump in. "Graham, you've had such incredible guests on your show over the years. Who's been your favorite?" Before Graham could answer, Lorraine interrupted. "Oh, I'm sure they're all delightful when they've had a few glasses of wine, aren't they? That's the secret to your show, isn't it? Get them drunk and hope they say something interesting." The smile on Graham's face faltered slightly. Christine and Dr. Hilary exchanged uncomfortable glances. The audience fell quiet. "I wouldn't quite put it that way," Graham said carefully. "We create a relaxed atmosphere where people feel comfortable being themselves." Lorraine waved her hand dismissively. "Come on, Graham. We all know what your show is. It's basically a pub chat that happens to be filmed. Not exactly groundbreaking television, is it?" Christine tried to intervene. "Lorraine, I think Graham's show has won multiple BAFTAs, actually. It's incredibly popular." "Popular doesn't mean quality," Lorraine shot back, not taking her eyes off Graham. "I mean, reality TV is popular too, and we all know that's bottom-of-the-barrel content." Graham's jaw tightened. He shifted in his seat, clearly trying to maintain composure. "I'm proud of the show we make. Our guests seem to enjoy themselves, and our viewers keep coming back." "Your viewers?" Lorraine repeated with a smirk. "Yes, the ones who want to see celebrities act like fools on television. Very admirable." Dr. Hilary cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should talk about Graham's upcoming projects. I believe you have a new book coming out?" "A book?" Lorraine laughed. "Let me guess. See more stories about celebrities behaving badly? More gossip dressed up as entertainment?" Graham's face had turned red now. He sat up straighter. "Lorraine, I'm not sure why you've decided to attack my career this morning, but I came here as a guest, not a punching bag." "Oh, don't be so sensitive," Lorraine said, taking a sip of her coffee. "If you can't handle a little criticism, maybe you shouldn't be in this business." Christine looked horrified. "Lorraine, that's really not fair." "Fair?" Lorraine turned to Christine. "What's not fair is pretending that Graham's show is anything more than cheap entertainment. We're supposed to be honest on this program, aren't we? Or should I just sit here and blow smoke like everyone else does?" The audience was completely silent now. Several people looked shocked. Graham's hands gripped the armrest of the sofa. "You know what, Lorraine?" Graham said, his voice steady but tight with anger. "I've been doing this job for over 20 years. I've interviewed hundreds of people. And in all that time, I've never treated a guest with the kind of disrespect you're showing me right now." "Disrespect?" Lorraine scoffed. "I'm just being honest. Something you might not be used to, surrounded by people telling you how wonderful you are all the time." Dr. Hilary tried again. "I really think we should move on to something else." "No," Graham said firmly. "I want to hear this. Lorraine, what exactly is your problem with me? Because this clearly isn't about my show." Lorraine leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile on her face. "My problem? I don't have a problem, Graham. I just think it's funny that you're considered some sort of broadcasting genius when all you do is sit celebrities on a sofa and let them promote their latest projects while drinking wine. A trained monkey could do what you do. The gasp from the audience was audible. Christine's mouth fell open. Dr. Hillary put his head in his hands. Several audience members shouted out in protest. "Lorraine, that's completely uncalled for," Christine said, her voice shaking. "You can't say things like that to people." "Why not?" Lorraine challenged. "It's the truth. Everyone thinks it. I'm just brave enough to say it out loud." "Brave?" Graham's voice was quiet, but intense. "You think insulting someone on your own show is brave? That's not bravery, Lorraine. That's cruelty." "Oh, stop being so dramatic." Lorraine waved her hand dismissively. "You can't handle a little honest feedback. That's your problem." "Honest feedback would be constructive," Dr. Hillary interjected. "This is just nasty." "Stay out of this, Hillary," Lorraine snapped again, her eyes flashing with anger. "This is between me and Graham." "Actually, no," Graham said, standing up slowly. "This isn't between us at all. Because a conversation requires two people having a dialogue. What you've been doing is a monologue of insults." Graham stood up slowly. "A trained monkey." "Did I stutter?" Lorraine said, still smiling. "Lorraine, this is absolutely disgraceful," Christine said, standing up alongside Graham. "I've worked with you for years, and I've never seen you behave like this. What's gotten into you?" "Nothing's gotten into me," Lorraine said defensively. "I'm just tired of pretending that mediocrity deserves applause." "Mediocrity?" Graham's voice rose in disbelief. "You're calling my work mediocre?" "If the shoe fits," Lorraine shrugged, taking another sip of her coffee as if she hadn't just lobbed another insult. Dr. Hillary stood as well. "This needs to stop right now. This is embarrassing for everyone involved." "The only thing that's embarrassing is watching everyone fawn over Graham like he's some kind of television god," Lorraine said bitterly. "He's just a talk show host. He's not special." "And what are you?" Graham asked pointedly. "You're a talk show host too, Lorraine. Does that mean you're not special either?" Lorraine's face flushed deeper. "That's different." "How is it different?" Graham pressed. "Please, explain to me how what you do is so much more valuable than what I do." I ask real questions," Lorraine stammered. "I don't just sit around getting people drunk and giggling at their stories." "Real questions," Graham repeated. "Like comparing me to a monkey? That's your idea of real journalism?" The audience was getting louder now. People were calling out, "Shame on you," and "Apologize to Graham." One woman in the front row was shaking her head in disgust. "You know what?" Graham unclipped his microphone. "I've sat through some uncomfortable interviews in my time, but I've never been insulted quite so thoroughly by a host who clearly has some sort of agenda." Lorraine's smile faded. "Oh, sit down, Graham. Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic?" Graham's voice rose. "You just compared me to a monkey on national television, and you're telling me not to be dramatic?" Christine stood up too. "Graham, please. Don't go." "Why should I stay?" Graham turned to Christine. "So she can insult me some more? So I can sit here and smile while she tears apart everything I've worked for?" Lorraine rolled her eyes. "Oh, here we go. The poor, persecuted celebrity. You can't take a little criticism, so you're going to storm off like a child." "Criticism?" Graham's voice was incredulous. "You haven't offered a single piece of constructive criticism. You've just hurled insults at me from the moment I sat down." "Maybe if your ego wasn't so fragile, you could handle an honest conversation," Lorraine snapped. Dr. Hillary stood up now too. "Lorraine, this has gone too far." "Stay out of this, Hillary," Lorraine said sharply. Graham shook his head. "You know what the saddest part of this is? I actually used to respect you, Lorraine. I thought you were a professional. But this is just sad." "Sad?" Lorraine stood up, her face flushed. "What's sad is watching you prance around like you're God's gift to television, when you're nothing but a glorified barman serving drinks to famous people. The audience erupted in shocked murmurs. Several people started booing. Christine looked like she might cry. More audience members were standing up now, clearly upset by what they were witnessing. "You know what, Lorraine?" Christine said, her voice breaking. "I've defended you so many times. When people said you could be difficult, I said they were wrong. When people said you had a mean streak, I said they didn't know you. But they were right, weren't they? This is who you really are." "Don't you dare!" Lorraine pointed at Christine. "Don't you dare turn this around on me." "Someone needs to," Dr. Hillary said firmly, "because you're out of control. This isn't entertainment. This isn't good television. This is bullying. Plain and simple. I am not a bully," Lorraine's voice cracked. "How dare you call me a bully on my own show?" "Then stop acting like one," Graham said quietly, "because that's exactly what you're doing. You're using your position as host to attack someone who came here in good faith." "Good faith?" Lorraine laughed harshly. "You came here to promote yourself, just like every other guest who sits on that sofa." "Of course I came to promote my book," Graham said. "That's what guests do. That's how this works. But I also came here expecting to be treated with basic respect. Was that too much to ask?" Lorraine opened her mouth to respond, but Christine cut her off. "Yes, Graham, it was too much to ask. Apparently basic human decency is beyond Lorraine today." "That's it," Graham said quietly. "I'm done." "Fine," Lorraine shouted. "Walk off then. Run away. That's what people like you do when things get difficult." Graham turned back to face her. "People like me? What exactly does that mean?" "It means people who've had everything handed to them," Lorraine said venomously. "People who think they're untouchable. People who can't handle being challenged." "Handed to me?" Graham's voice was shaking now. "I've worked for everything I have. Every single thing. And I've never, not once, and treated a guest the way you're treating me right now." Christine grabbed Graham's arm. "Graham, please. Just ignore her." "How can I ignore this?" Graham gestured at Lorraine. "She's been attacking me nonstop for 10 minutes. Lorraine crossed her arms. "If you think this is an attack, you really are as soft as I thought." "Lorraine, stop," Dr. Hillary pleaded. "This is getting out of hand." "It got out of hand the moment she opened her mouth," Graham said. "I came here to have a pleasant conversation, to talk about my work, my book, maybe share a few funny stories. Instead, I've been subjected to this. This is called real journalism," Lorraine said. "Not your little love fest where everyone giggles and pretends to be best friends." Graham laughed bitterly. "Real journalism? Is that what you call this? Insulting your guests and acting like a bully?" "I'm not a bully." Lorraine's voice went up an octave. "So I'm asking the questions nobody else will ask." "Questions?" Graham threw his hands up. "You haven't asked me a single question. You've just made insulting statements and waited for me to react." Christine was crying now. "Please, both of you, just stop." "I'm happy to stop," Graham said. "In fact, I'm leaving." "Good," Lorraine said. "We don't need people with your attitude on this show anyway." Graham stared at her. "My attitude? My attitude? You just spent the last 15 minutes ripping me apart for no reason, and I have the attitude problem?" "You're the one making a scene," Lorraine pointed out. "Because you gave me no choice." Graham's voice cracked slightly. "You've humiliated me on live television. You've insulted my career, my work, my integrity. What exactly did you expect me to do? Sit here and take it?" Dr. Hillary stepped between them. "Graham, why don't we all just take a breath?" "I'm done taking breaths," Graham said. "I'm done being polite. And I'm definitely done with this interview." Lorraine smirked. "Run along then. I'm sure your viewers won't mind that you can't handle a tough conversation." "Tough conversation?" Graham's eyes widened. "You think that's what this was? A tough conversation? This was a character assassination. This was you trying to make yourself feel important by tearing someone else down. Oh, please. Lorraine waved her hand. You're being ridiculous. Am I? Graham's voice was cold now. Let me ask you something, Lorraine. When was the last time you had a guest on this show and spent the entire interview insulting them to their face? Lorraine hesitated. That's not what I'm doing. It's exactly what you're doing, Christine said quietly. Graham's right. This isn't journalism. This is just mean. Don't you start, Lorraine turned on Christine. I don't need you defending him. Someone needs to, Christine said, her voice stronger now. Because what you're doing is wrong. Dr. Hillary nodded. I have to agree. This has crossed a line. Lorraine looked around, suddenly realizing she was outnumbered. You're all being ridiculous. I'm just doing my job. Your job is to make your guests feel welcome, Graham said. Your job is to have interesting conversations, not to bully people on camera. I'm not a bully, Lorraine insisted. Then what do you call what you've been doing? Graham demanded. Because from where I'm standing, you've done nothing but attack me since I sat down. Lorraine's face was bright red now. Maybe if you weren't so arrogant, so full of yourself, you'd be able to take a little criticism. There you go again, Graham said. More insults. More attacks. Do you even hear yourself? The audience started clapping. Someone shouted, Leave Graham alone. Another person yelled, This isn't right. Lorraine looked flustered. The audience doesn't know what they're talking about. The audience knows exactly what they're talking about, Graham said. They can see what's happening here. They can see you've been attacking me from the start. I haven't been attacking anyone. Lorraine's voice was getting shrill now. I've been asking legitimate questions about your show. No, Graham said firmly. You've been making snide comments and waiting for me to defend myself. That's not the same thing as asking questions. Christine wiped her eyes. Graham's right. You haven't asked him a single genuine question. Whose side are you on? Lorraine snapped at Christine. I'm on the side of basic human decency, Christine replied. And this isn't decent. Dr. Hillary nodded again. Or we're supposed to be a friendly show. A welcoming show. This is neither of those things. Lorraine looked around wildly. I can't believe you're all turning on me. I'm the host of this show. Being the host doesn't give you the right to treat people badly, Graham said. And it certainly doesn't give you the right to insult your guests. I didn't insult you, Lorraine protested weakly. You called me a trained monkey, Graham said slowly. You said a monkey could do my job. Or how is that not an insult? Lorraine opened her mouth, then closed it again. The studio was completely silent, except for the uncomfortable shuffling of the audience. You know what the worst part is? Graham said quietly. I actually looked forward to coming on your show. I thought it would be fun. I thought we'd have a nice chat. Instead, you've made me feel about 2 inches tall. That wasn't my intention, Lorraine said, but her voice lacked conviction. Then what was your intention? Graham asked. Because it certainly wasn't to have a normal interview. Lorraine bit her lip. I wanted to have a real conversation, not the usual softball questions. There's a difference between asking tough questions and being insulting, Dr. Hillary said. You've crossed that line about 20 times in the last 15 minutes. Exactly, Christine added. You could have asked Graham challenging questions about his show, about his career, about anything really, but instead you just attacked him personally. I didn't attack him personally, Lorraine protested weakly. You called him a monkey, Graham said, his voice dangerously quiet. You said a monkey could do my job. How is that not personal? It was a figure of speech, Lorraine tried. No. Graham shook his head. No, you don't get to backtrack now. You meant exactly what you said. You wanted to hurt me, to belittle me, to make me feel small. Well, congratulations. You succeeded. The audience was murmuring louder now. Someone shouted, You should be ashamed of yourself, Lorraine. Another voice called out, "Let Graham speak." Lorraine looked around wildly. "This is ridiculous. You're all overreacting." "We're overreacting?" Christine's voice was incredulous. "Lorraine, do you hear yourself? You've insulted one of the most respected people in British television repeatedly. And you think we're overreacting?" "He's not that respected," Lorraine muttered. "What did you say?" Graham leaned forward. "Nothing," Lorraine said quickly. "No, please," Graham said. "Share with the class. I'd love to hear what else you think about me." Lorraine didn't answer. She looked down at her notes, then back up at Graham. "I thought so," Graham said. "You don't even know why you're doing this. And you just decided to attack me, and you did." Christine put her hand on Graham's shoulder. "You don't have to stay here." "I know," Graham said, "and I'm not going to." "Wait," Lorraine said suddenly. "Don't go." "Why not?" Graham asked. "So you can insult me some more?" "No, we should finish the interview," Lorraine stammered. "There's nothing to finish," Graham said. "You've made it very clear what you think of me and my work. I don't need to sit here and listen to any more of it." "But the audience," Lorraine gestured weakly at the crowd. "The audience has seen enough," Graham said. "They've seen you bully a guest on your own show. I'm sure that's not the image you want for your program." Lorraine's face crumpled slightly. "I wasn't trying to bully you." "Well, you succeeded anyway," Graham said. "Congratulations." Dr. Hillary stepped forward. "Graham, maybe we could all just sit down and start over?" Graham shook his head. "I appreciate that, Hillary, but no. I don't think starting over would help. The damage is done." "I'm sorry," Lorraine said suddenly, the words seeming to surprise even her. Graham looked at her for a long moment. Are you? Are you really sorry? Or are you just sorry that this didn't go the way you planned?" I don't know," Lorraine admitted. "At least that's honest," Graham said. "But it's too late. I'm leaving." "Please," Christine said, "don't let this be how it ends." "It already is how it ended," Graham said gently. "The moment Lorraine decided to turn this interview into an attack, it ended." He turned and walked toward the studio exit. The audience erupted in applause and cheers. Several people stood up. "Graham, wait!" Lorraine called after him, but Graham didn't turn around. He didn't look back. He simply walked through the studio doors and disappeared, leaving Lorraine standing alone on her stage, microphone in hand, faced with an audience that was still applauding his departure. Christine was openly crying now. Dr. Hillary looked shell-shocked, and Lorraine, for the first time since the interview began, looked genuinely upset. The cameras kept rolling as the applause continued. Lorraine tried to speak several times, but no words came out. She looked at Christine, at Dr. Hillary, at the audience, and seemed to realize, perhaps for the first time, what she had done. We'll take a break," she finally managed to say, her voice barely audible over the continuing applause. But the damage was done. Graham Norton had been pushed too far, insulted too deeply, and he had done the only thing he could do. He had walked away with his dignity intact, leaving Lorraine to face the consequences of her own behavior. The studio lights seemed harsher now. The bright, cheerful set looked almost garish in the wake of what had just happened. Christine dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Dr. Hillary stared at the floor, and Lorraine stood there, still holding her coffee mug, looking like someone who had just realized they had made a terrible mistake. The audience finally began to quiet down, but the atmosphere in the studio had completely changed. What was supposed to be a fun, lighthearted morning show had turned into something uncomfortable, and something that nobody had expected. Lorraine finally sat down, her hands shaking slightly. She looked at her notes, but the words seemed meaningless now. The carefully planned questions, the topics she had wanted to cover, all of it felt hollow in the wake of what had just transpired. That didn't go as planned," she said weakly into her microphone. Christine didn't respond. Dr. Hillary just shook his head slowly. Somewhere backstage, Graham Norton was probably already on his way out of the building, away from the studio, away from Lorraine, away from the entire situation. And back in the studio, Lorraine was left to contemplate what had just happened. How a simple interview had spiraled so completely out of control. How her words had driven away one of the most beloved figures in British television. The producer's voice crackled in her earpiece, probably telling her they needed to go to commercial. Probably asking her what had just happened. Probably wondering how they were going to salvage the rest of the show. But Lorraine barely heard it. She was still staring at the empty space where Graham had been sitting, still processing the applause that had followed his departure, still coming to terms with what had just happened. Christine finally spoke. "I think we need to talk about what just happened." "Not now," Lorraine said quietly. "Yes, now," Christine insisted. "You can't just pretend that didn't happen." "I'm not pretending anything," Lorraine said defensively. "Then what are you doing?" Dr. Hillary asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, you just drove off one of the nicest people in television for absolutely no reason." Lorraine's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what I was doing." "That's the problem," Christine said. "You should know. You're the host. And you're supposed to be in control." "I was in control," Lorraine protested. "No," Dr. Hillary said firmly. "You were out of control. Completely out of control." The audience was watching this exchange with rapt attention now. This wasn't what they had come to see, but it was certainly more dramatic than anything they could have expected. Lorraine looked out at them, and for a moment, she seemed to see herself through their eyes. A host who had attacked her guest. A professional who had behaved unprofessionally. A person who had been needlessly cruel to someone who had done nothing to deserve it. I think we should end the show," she said finally. "We still have 40 minutes left," the producer's voice said in her ear. "I don't care," Lorraine said. I can't do this right now." Christine and Dr. Hillary exchanged glances. Neither of them argued. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lorraine said to the audience, her voice thick with emotion, "I apologize. We're going to have to cut today's show short." The audience murmured among themselves. Some people looked sympathetic. Others looked angry. All of them looked confused about what they had just witnessed. Lorraine stood up on shaky legs. "Thank you for coming." And with that, she walked off her own stage, leaving Christine and Dr. Hillary sitting there alone, leaving the audience bewildered, and leaving behind the wreckage of an interview that had gone so terribly, terribly wrong. The cameras finally stopped rolling. The studio lights dimmed, and everyone involved was left to wonder how a simple morning talk show appearance had turned into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. Graham Norton had come to promote his book, to share some stories, to connect with viewers. Instead, he had been insulted, attacked, and ultimately driven away by a host who seemed determined to tear him down for reasons nobody could quite understand. It was a moment that would be talked about for years to come. A moment that would define both careers in different ways. A moment that showed what happens when professional courtesy gives way to personal animosity. And through it all, Graham had maintained his dignity. He had defended himself without stooping to Lorraine's level. He had stood up for himself without becoming cruel in return. He had walked away rather than engage in a fight he never asked for. That was the real story. Not the insults. Not the confrontation. But the grace with which one person handled being treated badly. The strength it took to walk away rather than strike back. As the studio emptied out, as the crew began to pack up, as Christine and Dr. Hillary quietly left, one thing was abundantly clear. Graham Norton had been the bigger person. And Lorraine Kelly had let her show, her reputation, and her integrity crumble in one disastrous interview. It was a cautionary tale about treating people with respect, about professional judgment, and about what happens when someone pushes a kind person